the heart of the Amazon basin, where the canopy swallows sunlight and whispers travel faster than the wind, lay an uncharted territory known only by the locals as Selva Oscura, the jungle of shadows. For centuries, tribes avoided its borders, claiming that the forest was alive, not with animals, but with spirits too ancient and malevolent to name. Yet curiosity, like hunger, drives people into danger, and so it did for a team of 5 explorers led by Dr. Marcus Hale, a seasoned archaeologist obsessed with uncovering pre-Columbian mysteries. Alongside him were his assistant, Lena Torres, a young biologist, Ethan Ward, an ex-soldier and survival expert, Raj Mehta, a documentary filmmaker, and Sarah Quinn, an anthropologist with an unsettling fascination for tribal curses. Their mission was simple: locate the rumored ruins of an ancient civilization predating the Mayans, hidden somewhere in the jungle of shadows. But as their helicopter descended through the fog-choked trees, the radio cut out, and the pilot's voice broke into static before everything went eerily silent. The dense canopy devoured the sunlight, leaving them in a world tinted with green shadows and the constant hum of unseen life. The air was thick, the heat oppressive, and an unsettling sense of being watched clung to each of them. The first night, they made camp near a shallow river, and Raj filmed their surroundings, jokingly narrating that they were standing inside Earth's lungs of terror. But as the fire flickered low, Lena heard whispers, faint, childlike voices echoing between the trees. When she shone her flashlight, the jungle seemed to pulse, as if breathing. Nothing moved, yet everything felt alive. By morning, they found strange marks around the camp, deep claw-like grooves in the mud that led to the river and vanished beneath the surface. Ethan dismissed it as a jaguar's tracks, but Sarah looked disturbed. "No animal makes marks like that," she murmured, tracing one with trembling fingers. 2 days deeper into the jungle, they discovered the first sign of ruins: a colossal stone face half buried in vines, its eyes hollow and mouth open in a silent scream. Raj recorded everything, excited, but Sarah noticed the glyphs carved around it. They weren't decorative. They were warnings. "These symbols are protection spells," she whispered. "They're not meant to welcome visitors. They're meant to keep something in." That night, the jungle grew deathly quiet. No insects, no frogs, only the rustle of windless leaves. Marcus, restless and feverish with discovery, wandered away with his lantern to sketch the carvings. Hours passed, and when he didn't return, Ethan and Lena followed the faint light flickering through the mist. They found the lantern smashed on the ground and Marcus standing before a massive obsidian monolith, eyes glazed, mumbling in a language none of them knew. When Ethan grabbed his shoulder, Marcus turned, his pupils dilated black, and his voice was not his own. "The forest remembers," he hissed. Then he collapsed. They carried him back to camp, but Marcus didn't wake. His heartbeat was slow, his breathing shallow, and strange black veins began to appear beneath the skin. By dawn, Marcus was gone. His sleeping bag lay empty, and footprints led away from camp, not toward the river, but deeper into the shadows. Ethan wanted to follow, but Sarah stopped him. "He's not Marcus anymore." Her voice was calm, too calm. "He's become part of it." Later that day, Lena found Raj standing motionless near a tree, camera still recording. When she approached, she saw what he was filming: dozens of crude effigies hanging from branches, made of bone feathers, and what looked disturbingly like human hair. Each figure faced inward, toward a clearing where the ground pulsed faintly, as though something beneath was breathing. Raj whispered, "They're watching us." That night, the forest came alive. The ground trembled with distant drumbeats. Shadows flickered between the trees, tall, twisted shapes with hollow eyes and limbs too long for any creature. Ethan fired a flare gun, lighting up the jungle in a crimson glow, revealing hundreds of figures standing silently beyond the treeline. Not animals, not people, but something in between, made of bark, bone, and shadow. Then the light died, and screams filled the air. Chaos followed, tents ripped apart, cameras smashed, and Lena's terrified cry echoed before being cut short. Ethan grabbed Sarah and ran, but Sarah suddenly stopped, her face blank. "They won't let us leave," she said softly. "We woke them." Ethan dragged her forward anyway, slashing vines, ignoring the whispers that grew louder with every step. He stumbled into a clearing where moonlight filtered weakly through the canopy, and saw Marcus again. His body was twisted, roots coiling through his limbs, his mouth moving in prayer-like murmurs. Behind him, the obsidian monolith loomed, its surface glistening as if wet. "Join us," Marcus croaked. "The forest forgives only those who become it." Ethan fired his rifle, but the bullet vanished into the air as if swallowed by the darkness. The monolith pulsed, emitting a low hum that vibrated through the ground. The shadows moved closer, circling them like predators. Sarah stepped forward, entranced, and placed her hands on the stone. Her body stiffened, eyes rolling back, and in moments she began to dissolve, her skin flaking into ash, her veins turning into black vines that slithered into the earth. Ethan screamed her name, but Lena's voice called from behind, faint echoing, not quite human. When he turned, he saw her face in the dark, but her eyes glowed faintly green, and her voice layered with many others. "You can't kill the forest," she whispered. "You can only feed it." Ethan ran, blindly, furiously, through the twisting maze of trees until he stumbled into the riverbank where they'd first camped. The water was dark, reflecting only the canopy's emptiness. Behind him, the forest shifted, trees bending as if reaching for him. He dove into the river, swimming until exhaustion blurred his vision. When he crawled to the opposite shore, the world was silent. No insects, no wind, nothing. Then he saw it, a camera half buried in mud, Raj's camera. He played the last clip, static screams and finally a still image, the jungle canopy closing in, followed by a whisper. The shadows grow. The footage ended with Marcus's face, smiling. Ethan dropped the camera and looked up to see, in the distance, a faint light flickering through the trees. A rescue team. He ran toward it, shouting, but as the light grew brighter, he realized it wasn't a lamp. It was fire. Dozens of torches carried by figures that moved with eerie precision. They surrounded him, whispering in the same voice he'd heard all along. One stepped forward, Marcus, his body now entirely overtaken by vines, his face serene. "Welcome home," he said, and the torches went out. When daylight finally reached the jungle again, a search team from Manaus found remnants of the camp, torn tents, broken equipment, and deep impressions in the soil as though something massive had moved beneath it. There were no bodies, only Raj's camera still recording. The footage, later reviewed by authorities, ended with the same whisper looping over and over, "The forest remembers." The government sealed off the area, citing environmental hazards, but local tribes know better. They say the jungle of shadows feeds on those who disturb its heart, that every 100 years it calls to new souls to join its eternal silence. On moonless nights, travelers claim to see faint lights deep within the forest, and if you listen closely, you can hear voices calling your name, softly, patiently, waiting for you to answer.